So we're going to do some lactate testing today with one of our athletes, Chase Hobson, one of our distance guys. He had a solid start to the cross-country season, but then pretty quickly plateaued. We tested things like iron and vitamin D and B and those types of things, just trying to figure out what was going on there. And all that stuff came back normal. And so my thought is, let's try to get some markers on the lactate side, see if there's an area of training that maybe we need to work on, or maybe some other kind of thing going on there. So this is my first time doing lactate testing with my athletes. And the protocol that I've decided to land on is we're going to do 8 by 800, starting about 10 seconds a mile slower than his aerobic threshold pace. And then each 800 get 5 seconds faster, which equates to 10 seconds a mile. And we're going to take his lactate levels through a blood sample, like a prick in the finger, after each 800. And so basically what that's going to do is as the intensity increases, the lactate should increase, and we should be able to create kind of a curve. The goal would be, to get a little before aerobic threshold, kind of get that through the lactate threshold. And then you should see at the lactate threshold, you should see a pretty sharp increase in lactate on the paces following that. He will need to hit his paces pretty much right on from the beginning. So we can't really have him, slowing up and speeding up, to kind of hit those paces. He needs to keep them nice and even. His recovery between each 800 is going to be taking a finger prick, getting the sample. I'll do the lactate test. He'll jog back to the start. Each recovery period is probably going to be around a minute. It's as continuous as it can be in that regard. And then at some point, he's going to say, "This is my last one." And so I've instructed him to say, I cannot hit the next pace. I need to go all out on this last one. And so whatever he has left, he's just got to fight through a really hard 800 to try to spike those lactate levels up as best as he can. All right, so that didn't go quite as according to plan as we originally had hoped. We had some issues with the lactate tester. A lot of it was user error. I was having Chase do it himself with his hand, just wipe his blood off his finger, which contaminated the blood with sweat, and apparently that kind of messes some things up. And unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of great data, so I'm not going to make the curve on this one. We're going to redo it, but essentially what happened, he ran the paces perfect. His first one was a little fast. It was 4 seconds fast because it was all in that first lap. He's just trying to figure it out. After that, he ran almost exactly or within a second of what he needed to run. The first one, we misread. It errored out on us. Either the strip was bad or I did it wrong. I was learning. I probably should have done a few test strips beforehand, but I didn't because the strips are $2 a piece, and I didn't really want to waste a bunch of them. And so the first one, we didn't get it. That was at the 255. Went down to 250. I got a reading of 7.7, which that probably should have been maybe 2 to 2.5 millimoles, and he had a 7.7. So that was a contaminated sample. Then he went up to his third rep, which was about 530 per mile, 245, 800. He had a sample of 5.5. That was a little bit more reasonable, but that's right around what I would predict his lactate threshold to be, or just actually slightly slower. And typically lactate threshold, you're sitting in that 3 to 4 range, give or take a little bit. So unless he's an anomaly, that one is probably off. Then he went down to 520 pace for a 240, 800, and we got a 19.1. That one obviously was really bad. That one I noticed we had him wipe it, and he was getting sweatier as he went on because we were doing the workout indoor, and he wiped that off. We got the 19.1, and that's when I decided, okay, we can't have him wiping it. I need to start wiping his finger for him with a cotton swab to make sure it's clean. And that's when we switched. The next strip, actually, for his 5th rep, he ran 234. Unfortunately, that strip aired out. Some of the strips, I don't know if they're bad. And then the last 2, we had a 230 800, and then a 219 was his all-out one. So he did 7 total. His 230, he got a 10.5, which that puts him 230 puts him right around 5K pace. So 10.5 is probably a little high, but I think that's a reasonable amount. And then his last one, 219, was 17.2. And that was his all-out one. He was pretty tired at that point from doing the other reps and with minimal rest. And so he spiked his lactate pretty good. So basically what I got from this, I'm not going to graph this because the graph doesn't mean a lot, unfortunately. But we are going to take that data and try to do it better next time, where we actually like make sure we alcohol wipe his hand each time, poke it, and then wipe it off with a cotton swab to make sure that we're not tainting any of the samples. So that was a good learning lesson today. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to a lot of data, but we're going to try to do a little bit better job of that next time. A couple things that are upcoming to look for in the future. One would be redoing this test with Chase. And then once we get that down, I'm going to start to try to test some other athletes as well. The next thing, they actually talked to one of our professors in our health and exercise science program, and they have a mobile VO2 max machine where you can put it on and actually run, not on a treadmill. You can run out on the track or something. And we're going to start to test some of our athletes with that. So I'll get some video of that so you guys can see, and then kind of compile the data and see what we can do with that. Thanks for watching. And sorry about the audio in the actual running part. I have this little microphone. I forgot to turn it on, so we weren't getting any audio. So that's why we had the voiceover on all of that. So hopefully that's not too big of a bummer. I'm going to figure out how to do this YouTube thing a little bit better in the future, but we're just kind of learning on the way. So hope you guys have a great night, and thanks for watching.